And welcome everybody to the first episode of Champions League Talk presented by Plug Talk Sports. You guys know me. My name is Daniel Torres, play-by-play broadcaster for Barry University, owner of Plug Talk Sports, work at Christopher Columbus High School, mentoring sports broadcasts, youngest commentator in Major League Soccer history with Inter Miami, and still cover the league fairly often. So here we are. There's nothing better than a Tuesday, Wednesday night Champions League football or Champions League soccer, however you want to call it. And this is a brand new show that we've created at Plug Talk Sports to talk about just everything Champions League related. And we're going to talk about the best games that we've seen throughout the week. We're going to talk about three specific in this first episode. Match day 1 in the Champions League is complete. But the first thing I want to talk about today, big news has come out. FC Barcelona have been charged with bribery payments to a vice president of referee committee. This is huge, absolutely huge, and it happened between the years 2009 to 2018. We've kind of seen through recent years with FC Barcelona just the shady stuff that's been going on, especially with Bartomeu, their former president. Just the things with Messi leaving, the club not be able to afford Messi, and the club really just disarming themselves and selling themselves all to all these companies. The Camp Nou, their stadium is now Spotify, the jersey sponsors. They're really selling that club bit by bit to companies to be able to have money, to be able to afford players. But the consequences for FC Barcelona right now, they're being threatened to be banned from the UEFA Champions League for an entire year. Now, I don't know if that's going to take into effect this season, or will that take into play the following year? Because once again, match day 1 is done for the Champions League, and Barcelona did play. So this is absolutely huge. It's a huge finding. It is just showing you right behind for FC Barcelona how much corrupt there was. And just when things like this happen with big clubs, look, sports is dirty, not only in soccer, but a lot of business stuff behind the scenes, whether it's college sports or professional sports. There's dirty things that go on. And just for this situation, FC Barcelona in general being who they are and successful years, really in 2006 is when we started to see Barcelona ramp up. But especially 2009 through 2018, they've had some very successful years at the club. And it takes away from everything that they have accomplished and that the club has accomplished. So it's just a bad taste. I'm sure Barcelona fans are not happy. The city of Barcelona, I'm sure, is not happy with this, and they could get punished, likely with missing an entire year of Champions League soccer. So again, not surprised. Again, just looking at everything that's been going on with that club internally. In recent time, there's been talks of stuff like this, ongoing. So not surprised that Barcelona has been found guilty of these charges brought forth today in a Spanish court. But let's get into the groups. Let's talk about the groups in the UEFA Champions League. And we're going to start with Group A. We have Bayern Munich. We have Copenhagen, Galatasaray, and Manchester United. We go to Group B, back in Champions League soccer action with Arsenal. We have the French team Lens. We have Sevilla, and then we have the Dutch team PSV Eindhoven. Group C, we have the Italian squad Napoli. We have the 14-time European champions Real Madrid. We have Portuguese team Braga, and we have the German team Union Berlin. Group D has Red Bull Salzburg, Inter Milan, finalists. They fall to Manchester City in the final last year. Spanish team Real Sociedad and Portuguese team Benfica. And then we got Group E, another Dutch team, Feyenoord. We have the Spanish team Atletico de Madrid. We have Italian team Lazio and Celtic makes up that group. Group F, which by far, if you don't think this is the group of death, I don't know what you think it is, but this is definitely the group of death. PSG, Newcastle, AC Milan, and Borussia Dortmund. So that's going to be a fun. Every matchup, every match day in that group is going to be fun to watch. And two of them made our first episode for this week. Group G, we have Red Bull Leipzig. We have the defending European champions, Manchester City. We have Red Star Belgrade. And then we have Young Boys. So for the defending European champions, it looks like they've really got an easy group. And then the final group, Group H, FC Barcelona. And then we have the Portuguese team, Porto. We have Shakhtar Donetsk. And then the Dutch team, Royal Antwerp. So again, Group F really being the group of death. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Let's go around the league, excluding the three matchups that we're going to talk about. Let's go around the league and let's see how results fared in match day 1. So Leipzig took on Young Boys, and they defeat Young Boys 3-1. That was a good game there. Then we have Porto defeating Shakhtar also by a score of 3-1. This one was a little interesting. European champions Manchester City taking on Red Star Belgrade. Belgrade took a 1-0 lead early, and that shocked a lot of people. I was surprised. I was texting my friends, oh man, Belgrade is in the lead. But of course, that wouldn't last. The champions, Manchester City, would come through with a 3-1 victory. 2 goals from the Argentine World Cup winner, Julian Alvarez, in the 47th and 60th minute. And then Rodri in the 73rd to pick up their first win in their Champions League campaign as defending champions. Lazio and Atletico tied 1-1. Pablo Barrios was the goal scorer for Atletico, and it was a late equalizer from Lazio because Atletico was winning this match. A little bit let down. I mean, Lazio is not a bad team, but Atletico, who really struggled at the beginning of this La Liga campaign, and in the Champions League, I really thought that they would come through with a victory against Lazio, and they were almost there, but they conceded late. It's a 1-1 draw. And we got Feyenoord and Celtic. The Dutch team puts 2 goals past Celtic for the 3 points. And then here's just a slaughter, absolute slaughter. Barcelona taking on Royal Antwerp. Barcelona gets by 5-0, 2 goals from their new loanee signing, Joao Felix. Of course, Robert Lewandowski in the 19th minute. And then Gavi gets another goal. And then it was an own goal from Antwerp. So Barcelona gets by 3 points with a slaughter, 5-0. And then we go into Wednesday. Those were all Tuesday matches. We go into Wednesday. It's Real Madrid taking on Union Berlin. And this took a lot more than what was expected from Los Blancos, the 14-time European champions. It took Jude Bellingham in the 90th minute +4 in stoppage time to get the 1-0 victory for the Madrileños. Jude Bellingham really has seemed to be coming to their saving grace. They're currently second in La Liga. This past weekend, they had a big defeat, 3-1 in the Derby Madrileño at the Wanda Metropolitano against Atletico. It was embarrassing. It was terrible defense. And you guys know I'm a big Real Madrid, diehard Real Madrid supporter. And especially this game against Union Berlin, it should have been more goals. In fact, Union Berlin did look disciplined defensively. But the big question for Real Madrid is the way that Carlo Ancelotti, who I love Ancelotti, he's a great manager, great coach. I respect him, especially for everything he's done in Madrid, but a little bit sus on the way that he is using the system in Madrid. And they're counting on too much Jude Bellingham to come save the day. He's been a fantastic signing that so far has worked out for Real. And he has saved their skin early on in this season. But you can't expect for Jude Bellingham to be there every single time. The matter of the fact is that Real is missing Karim Benzema. They're relying on Joselu to be that number 9 now. And the fact is Joselu is not Karim Benzema. And that's the problem right now. Where is Madrid? Fans like myself and the team in general are trying to figure out where are these goals going to come from. And it's going to have to be whether, tons of injuries from Madrid right now. Vinicius just came back. Rudiger looked like he was in some discomfort. Alaba left the game. This was talking about yesterday's 2-0 victory over Las Palmas that got them into second place. Girona is leading in first. Militao, Carvajal, Courtois is out for the year. So many injuries piling up for the Spanish team. And that's the question. Where are the goals going to come from? They were hoping to land Mbappe this offseason once again with that hope. It didn't happen. They signed Joselu, who has come through clutch in several games, especially looked great in preseason. But as we saw yesterday in Las Palmas game, he's kind of struggling a bit to find those goals. And again, it can't all rely on Jude Bellingham to do all the work. So it was a surprising only a 1-0 victory for Madrid over Union Berlin. And then we go into Galatasaray and Copenhagen. I think Galatasaray was favored in this matchup, and they get a 2-2 draw with Copenhagen. So that makes things interesting in that Group A. Then we got the Italians, Napoli, taking on Portuguese team Braga. No surprise there. Napoli takes the 2-1 victory. And then we get Sevilla and Lens. Sevilla a little bit rejuvenized now that their hometown kid and Spanish legendary defender Sergio Ramos is back on Sevilla. They were sitting dead last in La Liga to start this year. But they've gotten some life since Sergio Ramos has joined the team. That's kind of what they needed. They needed that captain figure, that leadership figure to get into that locker room and inject life into them and to push them forward, especially through difficult moments. And they're doing much better. They're not sitting in dead last of La Liga, but still a lot of work cut out for them after just a difficult start to the season. But they draw 1-1 against Lens in this Champions League campaign. And then this is another big, I would say this is a victory for a Spanish team. Inter Milan taking on Real Sociedad. Inter Milan finalists in the Champions League last season. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they fell to Manchester City. Real Sociedad escapes with a 1-1 draw in this one. Lautaro Martinez gets the goal for Internazionale Milano, and Brais Mendes gets the goal, and he got the goal in the 4th minute. It took Inter 87th minute to find the equalizer, and that is big. That is big for Real Sociedad because you're expected to lose this match. I'm not saying Sociedad is a small club, but they're definitely nothing at the ranks of Internazionale Milano. So it's a fantastic result if you're Sociedad, and a little bit shaky if you're Milan. And then this one, I wouldn't say that this is a shock and a surprise. I got to see them in preseason. I'm talking about Arsenal. But PSV Eindhoven is a good club. And they have a good team and a lot of young talent. I think a lot of these Dutch teams, they produce great talent. And, you think about Ajax Amsterdam a couple of years ago when they eliminated Real Madrid in the Champions League. That was a team that was fantastic, reached the semifinals, and you want to see that team and that core stay together. But Dutch teams, they're just feeder teams. They create this talent and then just send them off into big clubs in Europe. And sometimes I just wish that the Dutch teams would hold that core together and see them make runs deep into the Champions League more often. But it was bad for PSV Eindhoven in their first match day 1 of this Champions League campaign. 4-0 for Arsenal. Bukayo Saka, Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Jesus, and Martin Odegaard scoring the goals for Arsenal. They're back in Champions League football. It was great to see them. They were so happy, especially at the Emirates. All the Arsenal fans making noise when the Champions League anthem was played. So it's great to see them back on European nights, but they get a big victory over Eindhoven. And then we got Red Bull Salzburg taking on Benfica. They get a 2-0 That one, a 2-0 win. That one was also surprising. Benfica, who's made it to at least quarterfinals in recent years in the Champions League. They lose to Salzburg. They were favored in this matchup, and then they lose to Salzburg. So that was quite surprising. It was Simic with a penalty goal in the 15th minute, and Glock with a 51st minute goal, and there was a Antonio Silva red card in the 13th minute. So Benfica shot themselves in the foot playing a man down with just 10 men, and Salzburg took advantage of that. Before we get to our three main games, let's talk about Match Day 2, what's going on in Match Day 2, starting Tuesday, October the 3rd. So that's coming up. We have a good matchup. Napoli taking on Real Madrid. That's going to be a great, great match to watch. Salzburg taking on Real Sociedad. Union Berlin taking on Braga. Copenhagen taking on Bayern Munich. Manchester United taking on Galatasaray. And then Lens taking on Arsenal. Internazionale Milano, Inter Milan taking on Benfica. PSV Eindhoven taking on Sevilla. I think that's going to be a fantastic match. Sevilla, of course, with the draw. Eindhoven with the loss. So they're both going to be wanting more out of this matchup. So I think that's going to be a great contest to watch. Then we go on to Wednesday, October 4th. We got Royal Antwerp against Shakhtar Donetsk. Both teams looking to get more out of the match and get a victory, get some points on the board. Atletico de Madrid taking on Feyenoord. Porto against Barcelona will be a very interesting match to watch. I think Barcelona will win, but I think Porto is going to give them a fight, and who knows, maybe Porto can come out with a draw or a victory. Then we got Newcastle taking on PSG. Of course, group of death. That's a match you're obviously going to have to watch. Red Bull Leipzig taking on Manchester City. Borussia Dortmund taking on AC Milan, another group of death match you're going to have to watch. Red Star Belgrade taking on Young Boys, and then Celtic taking on Lazio. So those are Match Day 2 matchups. Now let's talk about the games that we have in mind here. And the first is AC Milan and Newcastle. Again, these are the three main marquee matchups from Match Day 1. So starting off, like I said, AC Milan, Newcastle United. I don't know how AC Milan did not win this match at home in the San Siro. Just the first half, chance after chance after chance from Olivier Giroud to Rafa Leao, who had a perfect opportunity. He ends up slipping and falling. So that was just embarrassing. But it was a hard-fought match, and Newcastle, who is back in the Champions League. They finished the top 4 in the English Premier League last year. This is amazing to see Newcastle United in the Champions League after such a long time. But they come into the San Siro and they get a 0-0 draw. They split the points, but this is more of an embarrassment for Milan, who made all the way to the semifinals last season in the Champions League and were eliminated by their rivals, Internazionale Milano. So, both of those teams, Inter Milan and AC Milan, are predicted to go deep into this year's Champions League, off of how they played last year and the teams that they have. Christian Pulisic, American fans out there, he is on AC Milan. Yunus Musa, then, of course, Giroud and Theo Hernandez. This was a more talented side than Newcastle. But Newcastle came to play, and they brought that scrappy English style of play, and they were able to hold Milan to a 0-0 draw. So for me, that's a win in the books for Newcastle, and kind of an embarrassing a loss for AC Milan. Moving on to the next marquee matchup of this Match Day 1, it is Paris Saint-Germain and Borussia Dortmund. I was expecting a little bit more of a fight out of Dortmund. I'm not saying that PSG is bad. Yes, they don't have Messi. They don't have Neymar anymore, but they still have Kylian Mbappe. They got Ousmane Dembele. and they get Marco Asensio. So this is still, and Nuno Mendes. This is still a good PSG team, and they have Ashraf Hakimi from Morocco. He gets on the score sheet in the 58th minute, and of course, what opened up the scoring was a 49th minute penalty from Kylian Mbappe, which we know we have the whole off-season drama, what happened there, but seems to be firing in all cylinders in his last year of his contract with PSG. And he starts off the campaign, this year's Champions League, with 3 points over Dortmund. 3 shots on goal compared to 1, PSG to Dortmund. And possession was 68% for the French side compared to Dortmund's 31%. Again, a little bit disappointing in how the way Dortmund played. If you look back at the highlights, it was all PSG. Dortmund really didn't have any clear-cut chances. It was all PSG dominating this match, and they get the 3 points. Now, the one that was the last, and this is the last and final marquee matchup, and it was a damn good match. It was super entertaining. Of course, our friend Isaac is a big Manchester United fan, and I have some friends that I play soccer with who are huge Bayern fans. And the first matchup is Bayern Munich, Manchester United. It was a 4-3 game. So if you're into the match that had lots of goals, go watch this highlight of this match between the German club and the English club. Again, great to have Manchester United back in Champions League. It's usually not the same, when Manchester United is not in it, but it's been like that for a couple years. Manchester United, again, has not been the same really since Sir Alex Ferguson retired, but Erik ten Hag is the manager, with the whole drama with Cristiano Ronaldo that happened there. So people were really wondering to see how Manchester United would come out and play in this game. They've started terribly the English Premier League campaign so far early on in this season. So people are wondering, how are they going to show up against Bayern, a strong Bayern Munich team that now has Harry Kane in it? And I have to say that it was a great performance from Bayern Munich. They did what they needed to do. I would say it was towards the latter end of this match where Manchester United kind of, brought their goals back and put the goals into this game. But if you watch the entire match, it was Bayern full through and just United getting those goals late, which if you're Bayern, you can't concede those goals. You would have had a 4-0 victory easily, probably even more. But a shaky defense, which a comment that Erik ten Hag said that bothered me a lot was that Alphonso Davies was not a good defender. Look, and Isaac knows it, I'm not a good person to talk to about Erik ten Hag because I don't like him. I don't think he's the guy to bring Manchester United back. I think he's very controversial. Mind you, there is managers out there that are very controversial, like Jose Mourinho, who's coached Manchester United before, who I absolutely love. I love his personality, but it's just the things that Erik ten Hag says for me are just, they're not even smart. For me, they're stupid. And for him to go on after the match and say Alphonso Davies is not a good defender, stupid. He's one of the best defenders in the world right now. Absolutely stupid comment for me. And especially after you lost 4-3 to Alphonso Davies' team. So Leroy Sané opened things up in the 28th minute. Serge Gnabry in the 32nd. Harry Kane in the 53rd with a penalty. Matthias Tell in the 90th. And then, of course, Rasmus Holland in the 49th minute got a goal. And then Casemiro with 2 goals, who, I'm not going to lie, I miss him in Madrid. But it is what it is. He's probably one of the best players that United has. Because of his age, he's not a box-to-box player. He's a defensive midfielder. He gets 2 goals in the 88th and the 90th, +5. The big story, again, was Harry Kane scoring from the spot for Bayern. He seems to be liking it in Germany. But yeah, this is a game where you look at the scoreline, like, 4-3. It probably was back and forth. It was a great match to watch. But in reality, it really wasn't like that. It was Bayern full through and just United coming in with those late goals to make it 4-3. But what I take from this match is that Bayern can't let that happen when they play big teams. They can't let 3 goals late. Because imagine if they would have found another one, it would have been 4-4. I think that would have been embarrassing for Bayern Munich. So they can't let things happen like that when they face bigger clubs, which they will later down the line in the Champions League, because I fully expect them to get out of this group. And for Manchester United, you got to give them a golf clap. It was a valiant effort. They didn't give up. Many teams, when they see Bayern go up 3-0 or 4-0, which would have you 4-1, you'll be like, I'm giving up. Like, there's no chance. We're not even playing at home. We're getting killed. Let's just head back to Manchester, call it a day. But they're not. They fought for the crest. They fought for the Manchester United fans and for the legacy and what the club is. And they put 3 goals on the board. No matter, if this was a Bayern domination, they were able to put 3 on the board at the end and make this a close match and make it interesting and tight at the end. So for me, that's what I give to them, is just credit. But they're going to have to continue to come out swinging in the next matches. I think Manchester United does come out of the group. But again, for the defensive end, they cannot concede that many goals as they did to Bayern. Well, anyways, those were the 3 marquee matchups that we had for you guys today from match day 1. We can't wait for match day 2. It's going to be so fun to watch. I can't wait to watch all those games coming up this week for the UEFA Champions League. And again, stay tuned to the show. It's going to be a fun season to see who makes it to the final in London at Wembley Stadium. Again, I think Manchester City are the favorites. I can't doubt my Real Madrid, but who knows? It's Champions League, all the action. Catch it here every Thursday after match days for Champions League talk, and we'll see you guys for episode number 2. Stay tuned to all of our Plug Talk Sports social media, and we hope you guys have a rest day, a great day, and a great weekend.